the result of the policy, and that was on the hardest days. That was child tax credit. I remember visiting with a woman, Brittany, house, White House, children. She was pregnant with her husband. She was in school at the time, dream come
Get
criminal
fucked by a
justice
rabbi.
advocate.
Go.
That was no longer on the table. She couldn't afford child. She couldn't afford it. So she ended up creating a child care center in her home, and her center was successful because in part of different policies for child care block grants ended up opening additional centers. We're her one of them in Colorado. Now she has moms who don't have the resources to afford child care for their kids. Her center was like that, people face, but also what they do with opportunity and advantage that really
Dublin, thousand child. Like, what are the challenges of that? Compromise. A lot of politicians think that maybe the Republicans came up with an idea, they came up with an idea, and so that idea. Probably all kinds of things happen. When the game's happening, you probably forget about the family. Each politician thinks about how they can benefit themselves. People think
there were definitely people I met with in Washington who I felt that was true of, but they all go back to their districts, and I assume that they all have similar experiences. What I have, where people share their stories, where they do something really cynical about things like that. Some do.
help get people together. What's that take? Trying to get people to compromise, trying to get people to come in humanity.
I think first and foremost, you have to be willing to talk with them. So, one of the policies I advocated for was paid family leave. We left 9 million more Americans at it through a combination of securing it for our federal workforce. I had people in the White House who were pregnant who didn't have access to paid leave. So we want to keep people attached to the workforce, yet when they have an important life event with a child, we create an impossibility for them. Some people don't even have access to unpaid leave, part-time workers. So that, and then also put in place the first ever national tax credit for workers making under $70,000 a year, where employers could then offer it to their workers. That was also part of tax. So part of it is taking the arguments as to why this is good, smart, well-designed policy to people. And, it was one of my big surprises that on certain policy issues that I thought would have been well socialized, the policies that existed were never shared across the aisle. People just lived with them, maybe in hopes that one day they would have the vote to get exactly what they want. But I was surprised by how little discussion. So I think part of it is be willing to have those tough discussions with people who may not share your view, and be an active listener when they point out flaws and they have suggestions for change. Not believing that you have a monopoly on good ideas. And I think there has to be a lot of humility in architecting these things. And a policy should benefit from that type of
Yeah, be able to do that well-designed policy. Probably like with architecture and walk the rooms. There's probably designs of policy, economic policy that helps families, that delivers the maximum amount of money or resources to families they needed, and it's not a waste of money. So like that probably nice designs there, nice ideas that are bipartisan. It has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with great economic policy. That requires listening.
requires trust. Like I learned tax cuts would be for me. That was so many people across the globe spectrum advancing that policy. I really figured out who was willing to deviate from the talking point when the door was closed and wasn't. And it takes some courage to do that, uh, especially without surety that it would actually get done. Especially if they campaign on something slightly different. And not everyone has that courage. So through tax, I learned from people who did have that courage, and I went back to that well time and time again on policies that I thought were important. Some were bipartisan. Great American Outdoors Act, something incredible policy. That, yeah, it's one of the largest pieces of conservation legislation in the national park system. People visit our national parks, the vast majority of them being American every year. So this is something that is real and beneficial for people's lives, getting rid of the maintenance, something that there are other issues like that that just aren't being prioritized. Modernizing Perkins CT, vocational education is something I'm super passionate about and help lead the charge on. Um, I think in America for a really long period of time, I really believed that education stops when you leave high school. And that is not true, and that's a dangerous way to think. So how can we both galvanize the private sector to ensure that they continue to train workers for the jobs they know are coming, and how they train their existing workforce into the new jobs with robotics or machinery or new technologies that are coming down the pipe. So galvanizing the private sector.
All right,
essence,
are we rolling?
that effort. So whether it's
Oh, fuck yeah.
side, like
This asshole. Kick me out, you slut. This is fun.
education great shiny that good has no momentum because it doesn't have a cheerleader. So there are areas of good policy that literally carry across the finish line to run towards what's the news of the day, try to address whatever is being talked about on the front page of papers. So many issues that need to be addressed. Education is one of them that is prioritized. Human trafficking. That's an issue that I didn't go to the White House thinking I would work on. But you hear a story of a survivor, and you not want to eradicate one of the greatest evils that the mind can even imagine: the trafficking, the exploitation of children. And I think for so many that this is a problem that doesn't happen on our shores. Something that you may experience far-flung destinations across the world. That it's happening there and it's happening here as well. And so through a coalition of people that on both sides of the aisle that I came to trust and to work well with, we were able to get legislation. The president signed passed 9 pieces of legislation combating fraud, digital authentication.
How much of you know, was that hard to walk around with that, knowing how much suffering there's in the world? As you're trying to help all of it, as you're trying to design government policy for all of that, it's also a very visceral recognition that there is
talking about human trafficking, and you don't design these policies in the absence of the input of survivors themselves. Hear their stories. A woman who was really influential in my thinking, who she was in college, where she was lured out by a guy she thought was this guy, started dating him. He gets her hooked on drugs, convinces her to drop out of college, and spends the next 5 years selling her. She only got out when she was arrested. And all too often that's happening, that the victim is being targeted, not the perpetrator. We did a lot with the DOJ around changing that. But now she's helping other survivors get skills, job training, therapeutic interventions with people like Andrea and so many others. And I mean, you can't not your heart gets beat by it, and it's both motivating and it's hard, really hard.
I was just talking to a brain surgeon. Many of the surgery has to do, he knows the chances are very low with success. And is that wears his armor away. Like only so many times that.
And thank God he's doing it, because I bet you there are a lot of others that don't choose that particular field because of those low success rates.
You could see the pain in his eyes, like maintaining humanity while doing all of it. Story, the family that lost that person, that, and you feel the heartbreak involved with mortality in that case, and the suffering in that case, and in general, all these trafficking, helping families try to stay afloat, trying to break out, escape poverty, all of that. The stories of struggle is not easy. But the people that feel humanity of that, feel the pain of that, are probably the right politicians. But it's probably also why you can't stand it.
It's the only time in my life where you actually feel like there's always a conflict, right? Work, life, and making sure. As a woman, I'd often get asked, how do you balance work and family? And I never liked that question, because balance is like elusive, right? You're one fever away from like no balance, like your child's sick one day, what do you do? There goes balance, or have a huge project with a deadline, there goes balance. Like I think a better way to frame it is, am I living according to my priorities? Maybe not every day, but every week, every month, and reflecting on, have you architected a life that aligns with your priorities, so that more often than not, you're where you need to be in that moment. And service at that level was the one time where you really feel incredibly conflicted about having any priorities other than serving. It's finite. Every business I've built, I'm building for duration. And then you go into the White House, and it is stand through an hourglass. Whether it's 4 years or 8 years, it's a finite period of time. You have the last 4 years, the average White House is 18 months. But it's the only time when you're at home with your own children that you think about all the people you've met, and you feel guilty about any time not advancing those interests to the best of your capacity. And that's a hard thing. That's really hard for a parent. And it's really challenging them to be present, to always be to always be available. It's very difficult. It's taxing, but it's also the greatest privilege in the world.
That, the turmoil of that, the hardship of that. What was the role of family for all of that? Parent and kid. What was that like?
That was everything. To have that, to have the support system I had in place with my husband, and we had left New York and ended up in Washington. In New York, I lived 10 blocks away from my mother-in-law, who, if I wasn't taking my kids to school, she was. So we lost some of that, which was very hard. But we had what mattered, which was each other. And my kids were young when I got to Washington. My youngest was 8 months old, and Arabella, my oldest, my daughter was 5 years old. So they were still quite young. It was 3, and I think for me, like, the levity coming home at night and having them there and just joyful. It was super grounding. And I still remember that, when he was 3.5 years old, Jared used to make me coffee every morning. That's my great luxury. That I would sit there. He still makes it every morning. I told him I'm never know how to actually, but I've convinced him that I have no idea how to work now. But it's a skill I don't want to acts of love. Brings me coffee every morning in bed while I read the newspapers. And Theo would watch them, and so he got out and coffee. Theo learned how to make like a full-blown cappuccino, and he had so much joy. And every morning, he cappuccino, and I remember like the sound of his little steps, like the slide. It was so cute coming down the hallway with my like perfectly foamed cappuccino. Now I try to get. Come on, though. That was a moment in time. We had a lot of like little moments like that were just amazing.
Yeah, I got a chance to chat with him. Get the silliness, sense of humor. Yeah, it's really joyful. I can see how that could be an escape. The madness of Washington, of the adult life.
We were able to, but they were.
Kid, not upgraded, dogs in a hand.
Well, our second dog, we rescued him thinking he thought it was probably leopard, part lab, is what we were told. He's now, I don't even know if he qualifies as a horse, small horse in that. So I don't think he has much lab in him. I think Joseph did not want to do this because he really wanted a German Shepherd. So, a German Shepherd. He's gigantic. And we also have a hamster, who's the newest addition. My son, Theo, he tried to get a dog as well. Our first dog, Winter, became my daughter's dog. He wouldn't let her brother play with him or sleep with him, and was old enough to bully them into submission. So then Joseph wanted a dog, and Theo now wants a dog, and has Buster the hamster. So we'll see.
What advice would you give to other mothers planning on having kids? Advice to yourself on figuring out this problem.
I think being a parent, you have to cultivate within yourself heightened levels of empathy. You have to really look at each child and see them, who they are, what they enjoy, what they love, and meet them where they're at. I think that can be enormously challenging. Different temperaments. As they get older, that different temperament within the same but it's really, I think it's actually made me a much softer person, much better listener. I see people more truly for who they are, how I want them to be. Sometimes I think the are all exceptional, incredibly different. I think for me, though, they've also been like my greatest teachers. In that we're talking about
Like have
the
blue
presence
dog
you
shit.
felt
Your
when
normal
you were in the
hair
jungle.
looks amazing.
And
Your blue hair is bonkers. Terrible.
and I think for us, got and trauma cancer. She was giving dogs for a race, which she had all day to walk it, but she wasn't doing it because they needed to go for walks. She was like, this would be fun. And I'm standing in the doorstep watching her, and she goes out with Cinder and Winter, massive dog and this little tiny dog. And I'm watching her walk to the end of the driveway, and she's dancing, and it's boring. And I took off my shoes, and I went out, and I joined her, and we danced, and she was like a or it's allowed me to experience it. And it was amazing. So much more fun if we allow ourselves to be more playful. We can be so much more present. I look at loves games. A whole lot of books are survey, like a beautiful sunset. Experience. Right, Joe. So those people have taught me so much about sort of reconnecting with what's real and what's true, and being present in the moment and experiencing.
Reunited, communicating, and it's puzzle thing human being, like what makes them beautiful, the characteristics, that the way they want to be mentored. Like I often think that, especially with coaches and athletes, young athletes trying to be great athletes in a different way. Like for example, some need a softer approach. Like with me, I was like the tutorial approach. I like the medicine figure. That's when that brought out the best in me. I didn't want to be friends with the coach. Like I wanted almost, weird to say, but yelled at, like be pushed. But that doesn't work for everybody. That's a risk you have to take in the coach context. Like, because you can't just yell at everybody. Figure out like what